You believe your empathy makes you safe. You believe that if you understand deeply enough, love patiently enough, explain clearly enough, the other person will finally soften. You believe truth awakens truth. That compassion heals cruelty. That clarity dissolves confusion. But what if your empathy is not protecting you? What if it is the very instrument being used against you? There comes a moment, subtle, almost imperceptible, when you begin to understand the language of the one who has been distorting you. Not their words, their language, the hidden syntax of manipulation, the rhythm beneath their apologies, the strategy inside their tenderness. And when that moment arrives, something ancient shifts. It is not a dramatic argument, not a final explosion, not even a visible collapse. It is quieter than that. It is the precise instant when the mask encounters a mirror that refuses to flatter. In that crystalline second, the one you call the narcissist does not simply see you differently. They feel the ground move. Because for the first time, you are no longer speaking innocence into distortion. You are hearing distortion as distortion. And that changes everything. When the narcissistic psyche comes to recognize that the empathetic individual has learned its language, something primordial is stirred within the psychic atmosphere that exists between them. It is a vibration felt in the bones within the soul long before it finds expression in words. It is not a dramatic confession, not a final shattering argument, nor even a visible collapse of character. It is of a far more subtle nature. It is the precise moment when the mask encounters a mirror that refuses to offer flattery, that returns only the unadorned image. And in that crystalline instant, the entity you label the narcissist does not merely perceive you through a different lens. He experiences a profound sensation that the entire arrangement of the unconscious has undergone a transformation, as if the very ground upon which the relationship was built has quietly, irrevocably altered its fundamental laws. For a vast stretch of time, the empath navigates existence under a silent conviction that love must be earned through acute sensitivity. They attend. They soothe. They interpret shifting moods in the manner a priest deciphers a confession. They become a living instrument meticulously tuned to the emotional climate of others. And often without conscious awareness, they enter into relationships wherein their profound gift is transformed into a contract penned in invisible ink. The terms are thus: I shall carry what you will not carry. I shall feel what you refuse to feel. I shall become the vessel for your unprocessed shadow. This is not a sign of weakness. It is a sacred potential, deep capacity of the soul, which has been captured and imprisoned by an unconscious pattern. For the empath, particularly one nurtured in an environment of chaos or emotional capriciousness, learns at a tender age that attunement is synonymous with survival. The nervous system becomes a telescope perpetually aimed at the countenance of the other. The soul becomes a weather vane spinning with every shift in wind. And the self, the deeper center of wholeness, retreats into silence, waiting behind the relentless noise of adaptation. Now we must observe the narcissistic personality as a symbolic phenomenon rather than a mere moral insult. Do not speak of narcissist as a casual label to be applied to anyone who causes you pain. I refer to a specific psychic structure, a personality organized not around living truth, but around a fixed image. Such an individual is not merely vain. They are devoted, with almost religious fervor, to the protection of a fragile inner core from any exposure to the light of reality. The narcissistic personality constructs its existence as an architecture of mirrors. Every element must reflect back the desired idealized identity. And should anything threaten to reflect what is authentic, pain, shame, dependency, a void within, then that threatening mirror must be attacked, shattered, or replaced. This is precisely why the narcissistic psyche is so often drawn to the empathetic individual. It is not because the empath is foolish, but because the empath is luminous in perception and rich in compassionate devotion. The empath can be shaped unconsciously into a perfect reflective surface. The empath can be trained to provide a constant stream of confirmation. The empath becomes the loyal audience for giving witness. The one who whispers, "You are not so terrible," even whilst being wounded by the very hand they comfort. This creates a dangerous and compelling alchemy. The narcissist feels temporarily relieved of their inner chaos. The empath feels temporarily chosen, useful, imbued with a sense of profound meaning. The union becomes a silent ritual. One offers image, the other offers soul. But here is where the great transformation commences. The moment the empath learns the language of the narcissist. And what truly is this language? It is not merely a collection of words. It is the hidden syntax of manipulation, the twisted grammar of control, the arrhythmic pulse of confusion. It is the subtle orchestration of another's emotional reality. Narcissistic language is the language of the unconscious shadow disguised as charisma. It is the art of instilling doubt in your own perception whilst demanding absolute trust in theirs. It is rendering love conditional without ever stating the conditions aloud. It is silence deployed as punishment, affection dispensed as reward, blame functioning as hypnosis, charm serving as anesthesia. It is the perpetual stealthy movement of the inner goalpost. And most crucially, projection. You are what I cannot bear to see within myself. Through projection, the narcissist attempts to evacuate their own shame, depositing it into your body, your mind, your reputation. You become the container for that which they refuse to integrate. In the beginning, the empath speaks only in the language of sincerity. They believe, with touching faith, truth will awaken truth. Compassion will heal cruelty. Explanation will produce understanding. They say, "Let us talk." And the narcissist hears, "Let us provide you with more material to distort." The empath says, "I feel wounded." The narcissist hears, "Here is your leverage." The empath says, "I seek clarity." The narcissist hears, "Here is your opportunity to deepen confusion." This is the source of the empath's exhaustion. Not because they are too sensitive. Because they are speaking a language that cannot be received by a psyche fundamentally committed to unreality. Then something begins to stir. Often slowly. Through repeated injuries. Through sleepless nights. Through the body's quiet refusal to continue participating in the falsehood. The empath begins to perceive patterns. They notice how every conversation dissolves into the same fog. How each apology conceals a hidden accusation. How every gift carries a hook. How each tenderness has an unspoken price. They see how their noble nervous system has been transformed into a prison. And here, at this threshold, the great psychological shift occurs. The empath learns the hidden language not to become cruel but to become conscious. This is an enormous stride upon the path of individuation. Individuation is not a cheerful slogan. It is dissent. It is confrontation with everything within oneself one would rather not behold. Rage, need, longing to be chosen, terror of abandonment, the secret wish to control love by rendering oneself indispensable. The empath must discover that even goodness can conceal unconscious strategy. If I am endlessly understanding, I will never be left. This is not moral failure. It is a survival spell cast in childhood. Such spells must be broken if the soul is to mature. When the empath learns the narcissist's language, they begin to recognize the spell work. They hear subtext. They sense strategic warmth. They observe affection timed for maximum leverage. They detect staged conflict, false helplessness, manufactured outrage, convenient amnesia, shifting narrative, perfect justification. They see the narcissist not as god or monster, but as psyche trapped in a brittle glittering fortress. And in that moment of seeing, power shifts, not theatrically but archetypally. The narcissist panics. For the empath has ceased to be a mirror. They have become an eye. They are no longer a pliable field. They are a boundary. And boundaries imply reality. Reality implies consequence. Consequence threatens image. The narcissist does not fear your anger so much as your clarity. Your anger can be manipulated. Your tears used. Your departure reframed. But clarity, quiet, steady, unmistakable clarity, cannot be bent. And clarity requires no performance. It is simply light. The narcissist survives by controlling the lighting in every room. Now the dynamic becomes symbolic. The narcissist often represents archetypal figures: the devouring father, the tyrannical king, the enchanted prince, the trickster lover. The empath unconsciously longs to redeem what appears broken. But when potential is worshipped instead of pattern, devotion becomes self-betrayal. The moment the empath learns the language, they cease worshipping potential. They begin worshipping truth. And truth collapses glamour. Glamour is fog.it distorts perception. It makes you excuse what once horrified you. It makes you betray your body's signals because you are intoxicated by myth. When glamour collapses, the performance is visible. Tears become timed. Apology strategic. Anger intimidating. Affection conditional. This is when escalation often begins. The narcissist may become sweeter than ever. More articulate. More psychologically aware. They may quote depth psychology itself. But articulation is not integration. Insight can be costume. The empath must now watch behavior, not poetry. Pattern, not promise. Consistency, not confession. And when projection intensifies, when you are accused of becoming manipulative, cold, selfish, understand this: accusation often reveals confession. Previously, you would have internalized it. Now you recognize projection as psychic self-defense. And the narcissist panics further. Because their power required your doubt. Without your doubt, their arrows strike stone. Learning their language is embodied. Nervous system level. It is calm in provocation. Silence without pleading. A boundary without explanation. You cease offering your soul as collateral. And here comes grief. Not only loss of the person, loss of the fantasy. Loss of the identity of savior. Loss of the hope that love conquers distortion. Grief feels like death. But grief signals broken bond. Trauma bond is psychic entanglement. Your nervous system equated anxiety with love. Unpredictability with fate. The narcissist survives by keeping you in the hallway of almost. Almost loving. Almost changing. Almost safe. When you see almost as mechanism, hope matures into wisdom. The awakening is quiet. Fewer explanations. Fewer negotiations. Less urgency to be understood. You begin living not as function but presence. Not as rescuer but equal. Guilt once held your identity together. Integrity replaces it. Integrity simplifies. You suffer if you must, but without disappearing. Life becomes ordinary. And ordinariness earned is maturity. You move without constant narration. You trust alignment more than intensity. And perhaps the most profound shift. You can feel compassion without obedience. You can love without self-erasure. When guilt stops working, nothing essential collapses. What collapses is the illusion that suffering was the price of connection. What remains is quieter, steadier. You no longer need to earn the right to exist. You stand not dramatically but firmly, present, bounded, sensitive, whole. And if there is a final realization, it is this: you do not feel victorious. You feel ordinary. The inner tribunal has dissolved. There is no need to prove goodness. No need to disappear to belong. The psyche has found its footing. And from this place there is nothing left to force. Nothing left to explain. Only this: to live, without asking guilt for permission to be.